Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
Okay. Got any parts you'd like to get to know or change your relationship with?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like a hesitation because it feels like a lot. Our part feels like there's a lot of emotions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Frustration, tired.
They're all welcome.
I think I'm feeling like it's more that they're big emotions rather than many of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm definitely aware of a part that is embarrassed or something like that of how big they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
I can feel a shakiness to my breath, and there's a little bit of tears.
Okay. Well, don't have to explore any part that doesn't feel right, and we don't have to go to any depth or any bigness with a part if that doesn't feel right for you right now.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like they need help.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the embarrassment part is there were some things right before the call, just silly things, right? My record player wouldn't work, and I put the belt on and off, and I reset the auto mechanism, and it was it wasn't working. And then my dog was refusing to eat his breakfast, and And then I was late and just feeling like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then turning towards that and just very quickly getting a bit flooded and feeling like, yeah, it's all the frustration and the lack of control is like so much bigger than the record player and the dog food.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is that part of the embarrassment? Is like the frustration shouldn't be this big if it's about this other stuff.
Yeah, like why do small things yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's quite all right. All the parts are welcome, and even the embarrassed part.
Yeah. Yeah, the like frustration and embarrassment of like letting small things get to us.
Mm-hmm.
With a kind of like underlying understanding that when small things are getting to us, that it's generally because they represent things that are a lot bigger.
Yeah, could be. Is there frustration about things that there are also things that are much bigger?
Oh yeah.
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 Okay. Well, that all makes a lot of sense to me. I think the same thing happens in my system when I have the big frustrating things in the background and suddenly all the things right in front of me are frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, oh wow. Okay. I can see like just the way that you phrased that was helpful in the sense of it's like the big things that I'm frustrated about are not in front of me, right? Like they are outside of my household. And
right.
Although they're really active in my mind and in my heart and in so many of my parts, it's not visible and it's not in my face. And then when these things happen that are really frustrating or make me feel like I'm incompetent or out of control, like I can't get things functioning properly, it's like it's highlighting, it's putting a giant light on the things that aren't visible, that aren't in my face, and just bringing it kind of to the forefront.
Yeah. I can see that being very useful.
Useful is not the word that came to my
mind. Sorry, I was... Yeah.
No, that's correct. I mean, yes, that is true.
I'm failing to empathize with that part there, but...
Not at all. No. It is useful. Parts can definitely see how, and I can see how useful it is. It doesn't feel useful in the moment.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But that's a helpful reminder, actually, that afterwards, those things generally are useful.
Well, I also meant it as an invitation in this conversation of, would it, if we're looking at these things we could talk about, would it make sense, or would this part that's frustrated with the small things see how we might help it out by going to the bigger ones.
Like, does it see the dots connected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It was like even as I was futzing and playing around with trying to fix the record player, even as the dog was snubbing the breakfast, like it wasn't even a delayed understanding. It was an immediate understanding. It was kind of like what I was hearing at that time was like, a little bit of the inner critic being like, you can't even get this right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there was like just a immediate understanding of like, this is how and this is definitely a part talking, saying like this is just how everything's going right now. This is a representation of how
Yeah.
things are
Everything's
going.
off kilter. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you feel like you have a specific part kind of identified that you'd want to talk to now, or would you like to spend more time just feeling out who comes up around or is alive in you now?
I feel like the most present is the frustration with, like, despite best efforts, yeah, that frustration with like, I can't get it right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Which immediately brings up another part that says, it's hilarious that you even think you know what right is supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So maybe you could just let all of these parts that have shown up know that you'd like to focus on the one who's frustrated and saying you can't get it right.
Yeah.
And just see if they'll give you space to do that.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the frustration, like, and physically within my chest.
Okay.
Like this kind of pressure in the center of my chest. And kind of like it's like both bubbling up and pressing down.
Mm-hmm. All right. And right now, how are you feeling towards it?
Familiar. Like I'm very familiar with this feeling.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A little tired of it. I can notice that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Could check in with the one who's tired of it. See if it has anything it wants you to know before or that it needs from you.
And it feels like encouraging of going towards it because it can see that it needs help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like the part that feels tired needs help and needs help in like handling or like understanding what's going on with this frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it feels pretty willing. It's funny, but it's like it's gonna sip on a nice cup of coffee while I turn towards the frustration a little bit.
Okay.
Feels like I have the sensation of almost like a rock in my chest.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel towards it?
Hard to say other than like that familiar. Like I just feel like, yeah, this is that feeling.
Okay. Maybe you could let it know that you're familiar with this particular feeling and maybe this kind of presentation of the part. And that if you and it are both willing, if it feels right, that it could show you anything else it has to show you too.
Yeah. It's like aching. Feels stuck.
Yeah. Stuck like a rock.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like heavy and stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't know how to budge.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't either, but if it will show us more of itself, and if yourself is present, curious, and compassionate, then we can all put our heads and our hearts together and see if we can help it out.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I could kind of see like still have the visual of the rock, but also almost like a figure with its head in its hands and the rock kind of at its back. Like it feels like the rock is a part of the figure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just seems like he doesn't know what to do with it.
Okay. And are you feeling at all curious or compassionate about it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Great. Can you show it that? Let it know that
Yeah.
it doesn't have to do anything or change. And we just want to get to know it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is felt almost like when this it felt like showing the figure connected to the rock was like a bit of softening towards me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's just saying like I can't get it right on. I don't know what to do with all of this.
Okay.
Yeah, like it this part feels like it's been handed some big task and yet it doesn't oh wow. Yeah, like I was, it kind of brought me back to the record player again. Like, I don't have instructions for this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All these life things, like I'm supposed to hold it and I'm supposed to know how to move it. And I have no fucking idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And is this part, does it find itself feeling this way often? I mean, you said it was familiar, so this
Yeah.
isn't just about a specific issue.
No,
But it's been
so, yeah, it's like ongoing for a very long time.
okay. Yeah. Just let it know that you see that.
Yeah. There's something like a bit of relief coming in and just feeling not alone in that.
All right. That's great.
Yeah, I'm just hearing like tired. I'm tired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that this part wants you to know about it, about its experience?
Feels like it just oscillates between the exhaustion and the frustration. Just like, yeah, like trying to move a giant boulder, like the feeling that your life depends on it, and trying to move the boulder and then kind of collapsing onto it, and then like mustering up the courage and the strength and trying and trying and trying and then collapsing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the life depends on it aspect.
Yeah, that's the visual I'm getting, is like this part being like bloodied and like roughed up and like trying to get out of some like a cave or like a enclosure and needing to get out and not being able to move this rock, this boulder.
Mm-hmm. And does it know how long it's been doing that or when that feeling started?
Feels like forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it knows much of anything else.
Sounds really tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And at the same time, like, it's all it's ever known. So it feels like it should be able to handle it, you know? Like, this is the task and this is just my experience. Its experience.
And what's it afraid would happen if it didn't work on that task?
It dies in the cave.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. doesn't get the resources that it needs.
Okay.
This feeling of like nobody's going to move this for you.
I have more questions, but I'm curious what your intuition is telling you where to go next.
I'm just kind of there with it. It doesn't feel like it's directing me anywhere specific. Just, yeah, I'm definitely open to some questions.
Okay. What are the resources that it needs, that it's fighting for?
It feels like basic things. Like I keep getting the sense that there's sunlight beyond this boulder. Like there's the daylight, there's the water source, there's nature, there's food, air. It feels like primitive resources.
Okay.
Mm.
And how is it experiencing you? Is it aware of you? And what does it think about your presence?
I think it's a little bit confused, like why I'm in the cave. Like it feels like it has to be there. It has no choice. But like, why, what are you doing in here? Like, get out of here. You don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Just letting it know that actually it's okay for me to be here right now.
Yeah, that you're not roughed up by being in there, that you're choosing to.
Yeah. It feels like he's, stuck on his task. So he's aware of me, but also like, not terribly affected. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep. Is there a way, would it feel right to just invite him to turn towards you more, and maybe you can put some blocks behind that boulder for a moment so that he doesn't lose any progress?
Sorry for the construction sounds in the background. Yeah, he does feel open to this kind of prop that we can hold the boulder with for a little while. Yeah, he's like, oh, the construction sounds are quite suiting, actually. We're just doing a little bit of maneuvering here for a second, a little bit of construction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. It felt natural or nice to offer him some water. Yeah, he feels like more turned towards me now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of a like what now expression on his face.
Yeah, it's your call. I have other questions, but what feels right for you?
Yeah, questions feel right.
Okay. Is he protecting other parts?
Hmm. He feels alone in that cave, but okay. I tried to just ask him and really focus on him. And I got sort of like a yeah, of course.
Yeah. Is he willing to share more with you about that?
Yeah. I just noticed like another part coming in that's wanting to connect dots. That happens a lot in session, like this part that is wondering, the exile that we met that was in the cave, that was a little baby. Like, is this the same cave? And is just trying to notice that part that wants to connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting it know we'll get there. Okay. I feel like there was a question that you asked me though, right before that.
Yeah, only just is he protecting other parts? He says, of course. And I asked if he'd be willing to tell you more about that.
Hmm. He doesn't feel super open. Like it doesn't feel like I'm getting.
Okay. Which is completely fine.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because I think that's where the like dot connector comes in, or other parts that want to
Right.
sort of when we're not getting like an open response from this part, they want to fill in the blanks. And
Yep.
but when I'm just turning back to him, it doesn't feel like that willing to show me that. Yeah, like he says, like, oh, that's my job to worry about, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, it was also his job to hold up the boulder, and then look what self can do.
Yeah.
And so maybe that'd be another question is, what would he rather be doing? If he didn't have to be the only one looking out for these other parts.
I do get a very clear answer to that. Yeah, like providing those resources and that care for the parts that he protects, rather than fighting to try to get to them, or try to budge this boulder. Like being able to gather those resources and provide care in a different way.
Yeah. And how old does he think that you are?
5.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to explore that some?
Yeah. Yeah. How do we do that?
Well, you could just ask, why 5? What was going on at 5 that made him feel the need to take on this role?
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody was holding up the boulder.
Mm-hmm.
When it started getting really big and really heavy. Heavy enough to crush a 5-year-old. So he needed to try to hold it. I hear this expression so often with my younger parts, like this. I just hear it so often that says, like, where's the adult?
Yes. Yes. It's what they need. A loving leader.
Yeah. Yeah. And this just like this, I hear it, the way that I hear it is like a cry and like really like a call, like, where are they?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that all makes sense that he would see you as a 5-year-old wondering where the adult is.
Yeah. Like I'm getting this sense of like looking at the tasks and looking at the realities, the like experience and understanding, like having enough understanding that these things are important and serious, and also the understanding that I'm not equipped to handle these things.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Happens from, I think, most of us at age 5. Old enough to figure out what's going on here, and not old enough to
Know what
handle
to
it
do about it.
ourselves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. This confusion, frustration, mostly confusion of like, if I see that, like, why why isn't this obvious to everybody?
Right. Yeah.
I'm just getting the senses of like where it was looking at that time. Like I'm looking to my parents, I'm looking to my siblings, I'm looking to these random strangers, I'm looking to religion, I'm looking to church, I'm looking to nature, I'm looking to the animals. Like it's just looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And this protector is kind of doing that. It keeps pushing.
Trying to find the resources. Yeah.
Yeah. You can thank him for that, for his intention, for the work he's done.
Yeah. That's
And
a really
update him.
important role.
Absolutely. Update him with your real age.
Didn't know we'd make it this far. That's what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, he seems like baffled, impressed, and perplexed.
Yeah. Well, that might also be kind of a really self-aware comment of his, in that maybe his role wasn't designed for you this far. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
it would make sense that, yeah, he didn't have a lot of faith in making it this far. And
Right.
so,
yeah, he hadn't assessed if a 34-year-old could hold up the rock. He just knew a 5-year-old couldn't.
right.
He definitely didn't expect it to last. Like, I think he just feels like amazed at. I see him like checking fingers and toes. Like, wow, we still got all those too. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He mentioned if he was able to relax some, that he would want to provide care in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he sees your ability to do that.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Your 34-year-old self ability.
Sorry, can you ask that one more time?
Yeah. He had mentioned providing care in different ways. And the moment you said that, I thought, oh, that's what self does. It's the supreme care provider in the most creative and in every way imaginable. So I'm just wondering how much he can see that in you, in your 34-year-old self you.
Yeah, he sees it coming and going. Like, he sees it as like, yeah, that sometimes. And
right.
That, yeah, that's why he's still doing his job, because
absolutely,
it's like, he's saying like, this isn't a pick it up when you feel like it type of job. This is you got to hold it all the time.
Right.
And he sees that I'm able to do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm. He probably sees how other parts can knock you off course.
Yeah. Yep. Then this happens and that happens, and here I am still holding up the rock.
Yeah. So what does he need from you going forward? What would help him that you can provide?
That's interesting. I heard he said like, okay, I'm just gonna say it even though it doesn't exactly make sense. We'll get there. Like, what the fuck is this rock? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same question. I was also wondering, what is the sunlight, water, air like? are those metaphors for something else? Is that really what this 5-year-old was in need of? I mean, obviously, being an animal, we need those things, but is that what was lacking?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a representation, especially the light and the warmth of the sun. Like it feels the flowing water, like the air, it all feels like representations of love, of support, of consistency,
Mm-hmm.
nurturing.
Yeah. And what is the rock?
Pain, suffering.
Okay.
Difficulty. Things we can't make sense of.
Mm-hmm. And is that the pain, suffering, difficulty, confusion of the 5-year-old?
Yes, and so much more. Like it feels like it's the confusion and the pain and the suffering of so many different points, different ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this part's like, what do I do with it?
Got any ideas?
IFS.
Hey, all right. That's my solution to everything too.
Yeah, that I know to be something concrete. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
IFS lets self go to the pain, suffering, difficult, and heal them in different ways that parts can't.
Yeah, like this is how we understand things deeper. That's at least one way that I have found to understand things that feel impossible to understand. Through slow and loving inquiry.
And how's his understanding of that process and your commitment to that process? I mean, is he concerned that this is just a fun hobby and that you won't stick with, I mean, forgetting IFS, but just showing up for parts from a place of self?
If he feels like the system knows that we can't unknow that, if that makes sense. Like, whether it's IFS or any other ways that we find, we are, even the most frustrated and tired parts feel like we are committed to this. And it's what we know. It's what we know we can do. So we're committed to that. It feels like the doubt comes in with like, yeah, you're always going to show up for that. But this pain, this suffering, this confusion, it's like it's worried about that becoming bigger than the commitment, or like bigger than anything else.
Yeah.
Right? Like you self are committed to this, and we're here and we're showing up with you, but we also know what it feels like to become completely flooded and
Yeah. And if you're completely flooded with suffering and confusion and this part doesn't see self around, then I'm hoping that he can continue doing what he needs to do.
Yeah.
You know, we need our parts. There may be a way that when he is feeling that way and feeling called to get busy pushing the rock or whatever, that he can somehow notify self or find a way to make space for that.
Mm. Right. Because he feels like he comes online when self has been flooded with all these other parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so he almost looks at himself as like the backup method to self, right? Like
Right.
self's flooded and
right.
Not present.
Right.
So that's where I come in. And
right. Which again, it might be accurate. It might be accurate, and it also might be a great cue or a way, a place to start your negotiations of, okay, when that's happening, what else needs to happen so that this isn't the only solution. What else needs to happen to help self unblend from other parts? Are there, a lot of times a protector like this is saying, well, I need you to go work with these other parts that are flooding you.
Yeah. Yes, but it's funny because this part feels like it is his job, and he feels very it's not like resistant, but like that he doesn't really see it as like a possibility. It's hard to, I'm distracted by all this construction noise that's happening outside of my house right now. Sorry.
If it makes you feel any better, I can't hear it at all. It's all getting blocked out for me.
That does make me feel better. I was trying to find a room in my house that it would be a little quieter.
I think I heard one beep like 30 minutes ago, and I haven't heard anything at all since.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. There's like massive drilling happening or something. I'm glad it's not showing up on the call.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, he could be right, and it makes sense to me that that's how it's been for him. And as you know, this is a lifelong process of building relationships. So
yes,
I was just suggesting kind of asking what first steps could be to at least bring awareness to the situation and just look for ways in which self can still be somewhat in the picture or be notified.
Yeah, and it does feel like what you were saying. Okay, that's getting a little clearer as far as like I'm hearing from him, like if it were a matter of just him and self trying to work this out, that feels doable, but that's not the case. And the case is that he's sort of holding the weight of all these other parts and having to negotiate with them in order to get self in the picture feels like this is part of the battle that's not working.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, there is often that kind of battle, especially of protectors. And self can intervene to varying degrees. And then there's the beneath the surface, there are the exiles that sometimes are often why the battle is going on in the first place. And that could be another thing that you offer this part is, okay, maybe you don't have a lot of faith that I can jump in and, you know, solve the protector war. but what would you think about me getting to know some of the exiles here?
Yeah.
And I'm just putting out suggestions. I know that you've seen a lot of this stuff in action in yourself and others in various parts. You just keep asking him what feels right, what would help him.
There's something about like a direct line of communication. Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting, like all this drilling and noise happening in my reality right now, like in my environment right now, and like it sort of this part sort of identifying with all of that.
Direct line of communication.
Yeah, from this part to self.
And the way that you kind of made this space with him today was by one at a time, you know, feeling what you're feeling, noticing what other parts had to say, and this part's tired of him, and asking them for space. So there's that you can do kind of from your end.
So I don't know if it's this part or another part, but the kind of thoughts and feelings that are coming up right now are like this curiosity of like, are we ever gonna feel like we're not just at the whim of all these parts, and like that's not exactly it. It's like yeah, I mean as much like noticing and kind of being with everything that's playing out at any given time. Even with that, it still feels like a roller coaster ride that I'm on.
Right. Yeah, I think the best we can do is lead them.
Yeah.
So the noticing is essential for that. And congratulations on outstanding noticing and being with.
Thanks.
And the leadership takes time and trust, and it takes working with the connected parts and kind of following those paths for resolving some of those stalemates or
Yeah. And I kind of just heard this as well. Like, it takes noticing what leadership looks like in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even the small ways that I think I can often just chalk up to like noticing. Well, I was able to just sit with and notice and be with, but did I really do anything? Like, often there's a lot that was done within that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think if parts could envision it real clearly, a lot of them would have already done it. You know, there is kind of the surprise of, well, we don't really know what self leadership looks like.
Yeah.
And so that's why, yeah, self starts with curiosity and presence, and the leadership is negotiated. And each part needs something different.
Yeah.
I could also say each part needs the same thing, but
yeah.
maybe each system needs a different kind of way of attending to its parts.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing if we distill it down enough, but
right.
different on the surface. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How has it been for this part just to have this little tea break with you? You know, it did have the concern about, like, it's the only one here pushing this rock, and at least in this conversation, it finds that it's not alone.
Comforting. Yeah.
Okay. Feel like something you could do again in the future. Find this part, give it a break, sit with it, listen to it.
Yeah. Sorry. Some tea in my throat.
Mm. Is there anything else? Is there anything we missed? Any other concerns or questions that you have for the part? Or that it has?
I just started to get, a little bit more information as you were talking before, and the sort of like this part feeling like it's his job alone to have to hold this boulder up, and that there is some doubt on whether or not I can handle it.
It makes sense to have doubt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what the sort of like the reservedness of like not wanting to show the exiles or the parts that it protects completely.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's part of the reason why it took on its role. Because it was too much for parts at the time, or for the system at the time. And
yeah. And he was concerned about the persistence of self.
Yeah. And then I kind of got the sense of like, and I've noticed this before. It kind of feels like a tactic of this part to, it's funny, like you would think, or parts would think that it would want help, that it's talking about the persistence of self being important, and at the same time it feels like it has these tactics to sort of shove self off. Like it'll start, and this started to happen a couple minutes ago, of like kind of glimpses or thoughts of things that seem completely unmanageable and too difficult, and almost as like like you can't handle it, so like just let me
yeah
let me frustratedly fight with this rock.
Yeah, and you can stay with that with curiosity too. Okay, show me what the things are. I can stand back and observe. He's been doing that job for forever, so doesn't need to all change in a day. But yeah, just start with continuing to notice what is the rock, who are the exiles, what is it that he thinks you can't handle, and maybe just by showing up and proving your understanding of those things, you'll earn his trust.
That seems completely accurate and important.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be kind of on the other side of the trigger, like to still be here with this part, even after the sort of like hurling of tests, like
right. Yeah, just letting them know that they're not alone, that they have someone on their team, and even if they don't entirely trust that other one or don't see how that can help, it's like, okay, well, I'm here anyway. I can be here. I can keep being here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Like there's something in that feels like the secret sauce. Like, yeah, that's important to this part. And it wouldn't admit that or say that because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't quite believe that it is possible, but I can see that it is.
Yeah.
I'm just letting it know too that it's okay that it doesn't always see that it is. That is just starting with this moment is enough.
Right. Okay. Well, keep doing it. Let me know how it goes, as you continue showing up for this part. Just see what evolves.
Yeah.
Just feel like an okay place to stop. Do you have any other questions for me? Any parts have any concerns?
I'm sorry. I'm aware that I should be responding, and I like it feels like a gap. Um,
It's okay.
yeah, I think there's just parts coming up that feel fearful of trying to be with this part and getting off the call and
Did you say getting the call?
getting off of the call.
Oh, yeah. Worried that you won't be able to continue doing it or that you won't do it?
That it'll be too much.
Okay. Is there any way that I can help with that as your buddy in IFS? Like on days that we're not doing a session, is there a way that you would like any support from me?
That's really nice. Thank you. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, you can always message me. And, I've done this with plenty of folks where if you want to make it a goal to say hi to a part every day or something, and you want to message me and say I did it, or have me message you and say, did you do it? that's something that works for me, is just that really basic accountability. It's just the first thing that comes to my mind as something easy for me to offer. So I'm happy to do that. Or if there's anything else that would feel right or would be helpful.
I think that would be helpful. Like this part being so familiar, it's easy to think like I'm with it every day. And then at the same time, I can recognize like, well, experiencing it and being with it are kind of different. And
yes,
the parts that are fearful around it are mostly fearful of experiencing it, right? And
right.
Some
Okay.
encouragement or some checking in on attempting to just be with it.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay. All right. I'll send you a message in a couple of days.
Great. Yeah.
And really, you can text me anytime. I'm happy to see people working with their parts. So
yeah, thank you.
And if you think of anything else, just let me know. I'm open to anything.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Thank you for the time today.
Okay. Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Okay. Bye, James.
Okay. Bye.
I was wondering if we could compare notes from last time.
Yes.
Cool. I've got mine.
Okay.
Here.
Did I send you the call and did you listen back?
No, you've never sent me any calls. That would be so cool.
Okay. I can make a note of that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested.
I've got some notes of mine here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
Okay. I'm checking in with parts.
Great.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is about myself and how I showed up in that conversation. And
interesting. Yeah.
for me, that's kind of the biggest or loudest part. So if that's not useful for you, or okay, I didn't think I did a great job. A part of me thinks I didn't do a very good job, and that I wasn't very empathetic, and that I was too cognitive and explanatory, and not connecting or leading by asking questions as much as I would have liked.
Well, thank you for sharing that part.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that if we rooted around a bit, there would be good reason for that.
Yeah.
And also, it's interesting because I remember not speaking on it, but several times having this relief in your ability to ask questions. I think you're a really good question asker.
Mm-hmm.
And I crave that in interactions with people. I feel like a part of me generally takes on that role of
Mm-hmm.
like Barbara Waltering the situation. So I really appreciate when someone else is at the ready with some questions.
Yeah.
And I remember in last call being very blended with many parts and feeling really overwhelmed. And a part of me feeling really overwhelmed. And then when you would be at the ready with a question that felt relevant and thoughtful, I just remember like an internal sigh of, oh, I'm really grateful for his questions right now.
Yeah. So that's what I'd like to do more of. Questions and not explaining. I mean, sometimes it's good to explain or teach or share my hypotheses, but I try to keep that to a minimum.
Yeah. It's so interesting how, I don't know if it's this way for everybody, but coming off of the same call, how we'll often, or coming off of any experience, how we'll often be worried about how we came across. And yet we always think that the other person is so aware of how we're coming across. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's a part that's concerned with how we're coming across or how we're doing. And we all have that, seems like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what else?
Share. Oh, I think that's the majority of it from my side. I'd like to hear any of your notes, if that feels all right.
So my notes are mostly about what was going on with me internally. There was a bit at the end that I wrote that and how the session was wrapped up felt a little unexpected to some of my parts, or like,
I remember,
yeah, like caught them a little off guard. And so I made a note to maybe brainstorm with you about that, or are there ways in which, maybe stating at the beginning of the call, like, this is how much time that we have today, or I was thinking more about that.
Yep. That's been something I've struggled with since the beginning.
Endings are tricky.
Yeah. And most of the time I don't have a hard timeline. And so most of the time I don't say anything. And that kind of puts it on me or the caller to just decide. And I usually ask, does this feel like a good place to stop? But yeah, because I don't have any policy or protocol around that, it's a decision that's always made in the moment. And that can often, be jarring.
Yeah, I'm sure that's different for every system, every person. It's funny because I don't consider a lot of my parts to be very like needing a lot of routine or needing a lot of structure. A lot of them are quite the opposite, but I have noticed with endings in particular, I think because of some of the burdens that these parts have taken on, there is sort of more of a need for like some sort of general idea or expectation, and that can be helpful. I've explored a part of me that is usually the one that comes up during that is kind of feels like jarred or feels taken by surprise. And yeah, there's there's some good information there. It all makes a lot of sense to me why that would be the case. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll
I'm happy to do any of that brainstorming anytime. I could remind us both when it's been an hour. Even if that's not because I'm saying I need to go in an hour, but just, I don't know. That's just
if
to let you know that it's been an hour. Yeah.
I feel I don't really need that unless, because I think that I would take that as always trying to wrap up. And I have super like considerate, sensitive parts of me that would be like, oh, okay, wrap it up. So yeah. If that's helpful to you, I think mostly for me, it's like maybe a little bit of a warning of when you do need to wrap up, whether that's like, okay, I'm kind of getting towards a time where I need to go soon or whatever it is.
Yeah, but what if I never need to go?
That's have you run into that yet?
Well, pretty much every day. I don't have a job that I have to be at. I don't have any pets or kids. I could do this all day long. I just don't feel like it. So that's why it's hard to make that decision.
Mm-hmm. So how about when you do start to feel like it, like when you do start to feel like, okay, I've got to get on to something else?
Yeah.
Because I get that. Like we were talking about parts of mine that don't really like a lot of routine and structure. I do generally like to lead from, like I've structured my life very intentionally in a way that I do have a lot of freedom like that to do what feels most applicable, most important in that moment, and go from there.
Yeah.
So that's hilarious for both of us because then we could talk for days because neither of us are too structured with like, well, I have kids and I have this and I have that screaming at me. It's like, right. No, I'm in a quiet, peaceful place where things wait for me to be ready to approach them.
Yeah. Usually, it's just because I have to pee or my back hurts a little bit from sitting in the same chair for so long. That's usually what's getting louder and louder.
Totally. All right.
I don't know how many of my sessions I want to end with that. I have to pee now.
I mean,
and let's stop talking.
Yeah. I mean, I run into that too. And, I mean, a part of me wants to say you can just mute yourself and do whatever you have to do, but that's a matter of your comfort level as well. Yeah. So yeah, take care of whatever you need to take care of. And also, any type of forewarning is appreciated, I think, for that part that has a hard time with endings.
Okay. Well, I guess I could do some forewarning is that I am thinking about squeezing sessions into an hour. I almost never am able to do that. And so then they're often an hour and 20 minutes or so. By an hour and a half, then I'm usually really looking at the clock and notifying someone. So I would say that's my preference, is to stay under an hour and a half.
Okay, cool. So we have that as a...
Yeah. And what else can be tricky about that is like, we started late. Can you hear me? I was going to say something, but I forgot. Oh, the other challenge is that, I don't know if you remember, like we started late last time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tricky too. If starting late, if we chat for 30 minutes before starting a session, how much does that affect, if any, kind of how late I want to do IFS today. So
yeah.
we're doing mostly midday calls, aren't we? It's pretty rare that we've spoken in my evening.
I think when I was on the East Coast, we did evening calls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then now that I'm back on the West Coast, this is, late morning, midday for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have a little more pressure on my midday calls to, like, I'm supposed to go get back to work or get back to whatever I'm calling work that day. In my evening calls, I feel more wide open.
Yeah. Oh, cool. That's good to know.
Does this feel like brainstorming or helpful or forewarning or okay?
It does.
I'm also
I think
open to any ideas or any feelings you have about any of it.
Thank you. Yeah. It's like so often I think just talking about it is the brainstorm, is the sort of clearing out and planting a seed,
Mm-hmm.
So that feels good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into what's come up since the last call. And I'm looking through my notes right now. Is it helpful if I just read some of them aloud?
If it's helpful for you, sure.
Okay, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I think that would be good. So, I have mounting frustration and exhaustion in the chest, like a rock. How I feel towards it, familiar, tired. Here it is again. I have that part, step back, rest with some coffee. A figure holding up the giant boulder, quote, like its life depends on it, unquote. Fighting against this giant rock, immovable and blocking outside resources. How long it's been doing its job? Forever. How old it thinks I am? 5. What is it afraid would happen if I didn't try and move this rock? It would crush me. We'd die. We wouldn't get the resources we need. Can it feel my presence? Yes, but it's somewhat unbothered by it. It has a tireless job to do. We offer to prop the rock up so this part can have a rest, a break with me. I offer it water. More on when it started this job, around 5, responsibilities mounting, emotions mounting, quote, where's the adult, unquote. Who's going to provide these resources, hold up this border? What does it need from me? IFS, compassionate inquiry, persistence
Yes.
of self. It's often holding up the boulder because self has been pushed out by other parts, sometimes by it as well.
Mhm.
And then the last little bit I have is on the wrap up. James starts to wrap up the session. Feels somewhat unexpectedly to me. Hearts start to flood in. Are scared to be alone. Don't want to be in this alone. He reassures these parts with an offer to check in. Checking if I've been able to be with this boulder holding part. I agree that could help. And that's where my notes end.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Does that more or less align with things that stuck out to you or that you remember?
Yes, I just listened back an hour ago.
Nice.
So, yes.
Yeah. So in the check-ins, so that was a Monday last week, and then I had an IFS session with my practitioner on Tuesday, and a similar, if not the same part, was present. And so I got some more information there. And then throughout the week, it was very present. And when I would turn towards that part, I remember one time midweek, stopping everything that I was doing, lying down, closing my eyes, turning towards that part and being shown that part in a different way. And I try not to get too hung up on like, is this the same part? Is it a different part? I'm just kind of allowing the feelings and emotions to come up, but I'm very open to this being a similar but different part. I saw it visually in a very different way, and the visual that it gave me was disturbing to parts at first.
Okay.
Because it was just a torso and a head. It didn't have any limbs.
Mm-hmm.
And a part got scared by that, by how like beat up it looked. And as I reassured that scared part that it didn't have to look, it didn't have to be a part of this, if it didn't want to be. And as I was able to sort of stay with this part that didn't have any limbs and was all beat up, it turned from like a human figure that was all beat up, missing its limbs, to I don't know if you've ever practiced self-defense, but in self-defense, we often use these dummies that don't have limbs. It's just a torso and a head. And it sort of turned into that, which my sister, who's a self-defense instructor, she has a nickname for the torsos that they use, and she calls it Bob. So then I started referring to this part as Bob, and I kind of checked with it, like, is that all right? And it seemed good. And that was it almost felt like a negotiation with that part. Yes, it can show me this kind of bloody, beat up torso and head. And I can be with that, but I can be with it however it is. It doesn't need to shock me or be really jarring to get my attention. Like I am here. I am wanting to witness it. And yeah, then we were able to sort of land on this more neutral image of this dummy torso. It didn't want to be called a dummy, which I was like, okay, I get that. Yeah, that seems rude. but Bob seemed okay. And as I stayed with Bob, I really understood its emotions. The emotions coming from this part seemed painful, of course, but like so fucking understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that feeling of not being able to defend yourself, of not being able to mobilize, feeling like at the mercy of whatever is happening. And I'm interested to understand if this is the same or similar part to the rock holding part, because that part that's holding up the rock also doesn't have access to its limbs. Its limbs are busy holding up this giant rock. Right? So
yeah.
It seems really similar.
I
don't know. Do you have any thoughts on all of that so far?
No, you can find out from the parts. If you have questions about that stuff, I would just keep meeting with them and asking them.
Yeah.
And my other thought is high five for doing so much IFS and checking in.
Thank you. High five back. Yeah. So I think it feels right to try to turn towards that part now.
Okay.
And see if there's any objections.
Sounds great.
I do feel like a lot of sensations in my chest. Like kind of a quickened heartbeat and mild panicky feeling. It's just interesting how a lot of the sensations are really concentrated in my torso area. And yeah. that helplessness, I can feel this part.
It feels like it's coming from that part.
Yeah.
How do you feel towards it?
Curious.
Okay. Me too.
It feels important to this part to really get across how helpless it feels.
Yeah. You up for that? You up for listening or learning more about that?
Yeah, I feel very understanding of why it might feel that way. And I'm also interested to see if there's more.
And you could also ask it. Does it feel like you get it?
I'm starting to. It feels like I'm starting to. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my dog just came and looked me right in the face. I had my eyes closed. Hi, buddy. um, very licky right now. I think he's generally pretty sensitive to my parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe he was noticing some of that accelerated heart rate.
Mm-hmm. He's like, I'll help you, Mama. I can give you some kisses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel open. I feel like I'm recognizing that in the past it was hard to be with this part without having reactions from other parts, whether it was fear or overwhelm or
Right.
yeah, just getting generally freaked out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, presently, I feel more at ease with it. Sorry for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could ask if there's more it wants to show you to help you understand more about how it feels.
Restricted. Restricted and immobilized. Scared. And generally not accepted by the outside. Like there is some recognition that it feels some acceptance from me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get the sense that it understands it's not what other people want to see.
Is it working to protect any other parts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
the
I'm not.
part that was hurt when we were immobilized.
Okay. And how does it see its role as one of protection? Like, how does it do that?
It doesn't feel like it's doing it very well, but its intention is almost to like shock or get my attention with how bad that feeling is so that we avoid it.
Okay.
It doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work because other parts don't want you to see it.
Yeah, that's it. It backfires.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of showing me like we have this message that we're trying to get across with these sensations, and the message is lost in panic and overwhelm, and you just feeling the sensations is not the message. It's what's underneath the sensations, and that message gets lost in all of those sensations.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels like its message is like this, how bad it felt to feel like I couldn't do anything.
And does it feel like you have a good understanding of what it's referring to or the other
It's
parts?
showing me right now. Yeah.
Okay. You all right with that?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
It's been showing me a little bit this week, and
Mm-hmm.
it's showing me times when I was young and things were done to me, and it's showing me later. I had a bad car accident when I was 18.
Mm.
And then I had, I came very close to death last year. I had a very bad accident, and the nature of that accident, I think, is really important to this part and why it's so present right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, the day before we talked last week, I drove that same route that the accident happened on. And it was a really difficult drive. Like a lot came up that I wasn't expecting.
This is the more recent accident?
Yes. Happened last year. And I was on the highway. All 5 lanes of traffic had come to a stop. I had plenty of time to stop. So I put my hazards on to warn like people behind me, and kind of left like a good distance between me and the car in front of me. But I was in the high speed lane, and fully stopped, hazard lights on, and I looked in my rear view and I could see this car coming up really fast behind us. And I looked to my left to see if I could, turn there, but there wasn't a breakdown lane. It was just cement. And then to my right were other cars. So I didn't have anywhere to go. And the car behind us never saw the stop traffic. So they hit my car going like 85 or 90. I had my dog with me, and he jumped into my lap, and we just watched as the impact happened. And there was nothing we could do.
Yeah. How are you feeling right now? Retelling that with this part.
I can feel the sensations of this part. It's like a vibrating, like a disbelief of what's happening. It feels okay, though. I don't feel overwhelmed by it. just recognizing like it's really stuck there.
You okay with just staying with it?
Yeah. I think I don't know if it's this part or another part that there's like a disbelief or an anger or something around like, how is this still happening? Like, how are we've done so much to make ourselves safe and empower ourselves, and then something can just come that close to taking your life or hurting you in a really big way. And there's nothing you can do. Yeah, that's the same part. That's the part with no limbs.
In disbelief, angry.
Yeah, like I still don't have my limbs. I still can't defend properly. I get that.
You mentioned that the part kind of feels stuck back there.
Yeah, and by there, it's not even just the accident. It's like all of those situations that it's showing me. It's just
Right.
stuck in that helplessness.
Does it know what it would need to feel not stuck?
Yeah. Like I need other people and forces to stop hurting me.
Okay. Yeah. How do you respond to that?
I wish I could make that happen. Is not fully in our control.
And so when you say, I wish I could make that happen, and it doesn't feel like it's fully in our control, how does it respond?
Like, yeah, I knew it. Shit. Yeah. Like, yep, that's what I was afraid of.
Yeah. And does it feel safe for this part to just to show you that fear, the thing it's afraid of, in your presence? Does it feel safer at least being able to share that with you and have your acknowledgement?
It does, yeah. Yeah, like if we're in this, if this part is in this reality where it can't defend itself, and or it feels like it can't defend itself, and it feels like things are just happening to it, then at least it's not alone in that.
Yeah.
There's a part that wants us to be over this. Like, is frustrated with the stuckness of the helpless part, and it's generally the first reaction after this helpless feeling and the sensations that come with that is this other part that's just like, why are we still here?
Yeah. Okay. That part's welcome.
Yeah.
So it's frustrated with the other part being stuck. I'm guessing it's frustrated with how the part gets your attention with these images.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're still getting flooded with all of that. There's some sort of belief that we should be over it.
And what would that mean, to be over it?
Not affected by it anymore. Like immune to it in some way.
Immune to having the fear of things outside of your control harming you?
Immune to the sensations of the trauma. Yeah, almost like I've been experiencing the results of the traumas so frequently for so long that like by now we should be immune to it or something. Like desensitized to it or something.
Yeah. And just so I understand, when it's talking about the results of the trauma, is it mostly talking about like this other part that's showing you images, or is it okay?
The images, the sensations, the flashbacks, the nightmares, like any of that. It's just like we should just be over it.
Okay. How do you feel towards that part?
I'm noticing like like some shaking in my body, like not violently, but just all over, like a shivering, a shaking. That's almost just feels like my body really trying to like move through it.
Do you feel okay?
Yeah. Your question though was, how do I feel
towards the get over it part?
towards the get over it part. I get it. I get it. Yeah.
Okay. And if you were able to, if you and this kind of injured, or I don't know what you were calling the Bob part, if it was able to communicate with you in a way that wasn't so loud, I'll say, would that be something that the get over it part would like to see?
It sees that we've been doing that this week, and I feel like that's why it's a bit softer now and more willing to let us explore.
Mm-hmm. Great.
I think it is doubtful of when we're really triggered, right? It's like, I see that you can do that post trigger, you know, like in the interim. But when someone is asserting their physical dominance, or you're perceiving that might happen, or you're driving and there's a car coming up kind of fast, like when there's things that stir up that helpless Bob feeling, it doesn't really believe that that's going to be any lighter, or like that it would communicate that Bob would communicate in a more subtle way. Like, it's like, yeah, you can do that now, but.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I'm wondering, like, what percent of your life you're actually in those life-threatening situations or perceiving them versus being reminded about them. And so if we could only, just hypothetically, like, if we could work with Bob, and so the post trauma is reduced, like, how much would that help?
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. And now that I'm aware, I think for so much of my life, I wasn't aware that is what was happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that feels really clarifying now. You know, instead of just feeling like crazy, I understand that this is like a logical result of trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Logical, makes total sense. There for a really good reason. If we weren't scared of scary things, we probably would all be dead.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can hope to change your communication style, or Bob's communication style with you, if that's something he wants and you want, just to communicate in a way that works better for both of you.
Yeah, and I can see a real potential there because, you know, it makes sense to me that Bob would have to scream in a way, or make me feel crazy, or bring up all these wild, jarring sensations and images and things, because if I wasn't aware of what was being stirred up, then it makes sense that it felt the need to get really loud and really obvious. And if there is some awareness while those triggers are happening, it would make sense that it could communicate easier.
Yeah. Are you checking all this out with Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's kind of like, we'll find out.
Yeah. Like you said, you feel like you have found out some in the past week.
Mm-hmm.
What else does he need from you?
That acceptance of how bad it was. Which has felt scary to some parts.
Yeah.
Like a really confusing aspect of the accident last year was that I was physically fine. It was miraculous and also completely
Sounds like
confusing.
it. Yeah.
I had a brain injury, and that was really challenging for probably 6 months or so. And there was physical things that came out later on. But in that moment of the impact had happened, I looked down at my body, I looked down at my dog, and we're breathing and we're alive, and there's no broken bones and there's no blood. Of course, there's immediate relief, but there's also just like utter confusion. And this is a part of the stuckness. Like, it can't make sense of it. And
can I offer a hypothesis?
yeah.
Or something I'm noticing? So you have a part that says get over it, right?
Mm.
And when you first started describing the outcome just now, the first thing you said is you were completely fine.
Yep.
Then you told me that your brain was injured.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that would be confusing if you have both of those messages going on at the same time.
Yeah. Yes. Because a part needed me to be fine.
Right.
And wanted that evidence of being fine.
Right.
But we weren't.
Right. Yeah, you were injured.
Yeah.
And how is it now to sit with that and the part that wants it to be fine?
There's like a sadness of in accepting that. Accepting that we were hurt.
How do you feel towards the sadness?
Tender.
Mm-hmm.
It's also just nice to understand that that's there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm curious why that would be so scary. Like, I can understand, but I want to hear from this part why that's so sad to accept. It really wants to be like impenetrable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because if things can hurt us, like, then the armor hasn't worked.
Yeah. You feeling okay? You still feeling curious,
Yeah.
compassionate? Okay.
Yeah. Feeling good. Pretty calm.
Sadness makes sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it makes sense that it would be a lot easier to be fine.
Yeah.
And then it would be heavier and more difficult to be hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of goes back, it was just showing me like full circle to what Bob was saying about people not accepting that helpless hurt.
Right.
Heart, and so many loving, well-intentioned people after the accident just really honing in on the fact that I was fine. Oh my God, that's amazing. It's incredible. You're fine. Oh my God, we're so grateful. You're fine. You're fine. Oh my gosh. And yeah, so much so that I didn't go to the hospital for 3 days after the accident, and I was vomiting. I could barely sleep. I was in shock, and I just kept telling myself that I was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
And
there's
then,
these parts really used to when they're hurt, when they're helpless, that others and that others in you and others outside of you are not accepting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, people need you to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm remembering what a relief it was in a strange way, probably to the helpless parts, when I was forced to get help. And it was confirmed that I had this brain injury and the other physical injuries that were happening. Just a relief of like, somebody is recognizing that it's not fine.
Yeah.
because I get the sense that this part that needs to be okay, that needs to be fine and impenetrable, like it would almost kill us to be that, which is so ironic, but like,
Of course.
yeah, I can see that there's really no end to like what it would do to get that message across and to try to just keep going. That shaking is happening again, but I'm okay with it. It's just interesting.
Mm-hmm. What do these parts think about the idea of your ability to go to helpless and hurt parts and accept them and provide a space that's always accepting of them?
It feels pretty incredible.
Yes, incredible. Like, like, don't believe it, or
New,
okay.
not unbelieving, but just let's see. Yeah, like, wow, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's how I would describe, working with exiles.
Which of these parts do you see as exiles?
Well, the main players we've spoken to today, I would consider protectors. Get over it, and also Bob, although he might have his foot in both doors.
Yeah.
But when you say, basically to be helpless and hurt means to be not accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just the feeling of not being accepted when in a state of hurt, and to feel helpless and hurt and not heard and not validated, accepted.
Yeah.
To me, that's kind of the definition of an exile.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely feels like a foot in both doors, or like an exiled protector. Like there's protective qualities.
Right. Waving the flag, showing the strong images.
Yeah, that feeling of like immobilizing, like so that because it can be so strong, like for those few days after I drove on that route again last week, I could barely like leave the house.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's that like immobilized, like don't do anything feeling of
right.
Just stay right here.
Right. Yeah, that does sound a little more protective.
Yeah.
But yeah,
but it's showing me some connections right now that are really interesting and that I really understand, as far as like it's not things that I would have connected, but, so like, it's showing me some similarities between what happened when I was around 5.
Yes.
And being told that I was to keep that a secret. And not being able to acknowledge the reality, not being allowed in that instance, not being allowed to speak the reality or acknowledge the reality. And then that kind of same feeling after the accident of like, everybody needs you to be fine.
Yeah.
Work needs you to be fine. People need you to be fine. Like, life needs you to just be fine right now. Yeah, so it's a connection that I wouldn't have made.
Yeah. So that's the exile to aim for, as long as it takes, to earn these protectors' trust and permission.
Yeah. How's your bladder doing? How's your back doing? How's the check-in?
Both are wonderful. Thank you. We've spoken for an hour or more. And this is an always tricky part of a conversation, when exiles begin to appear towards the end of a conversation. And a lot of times I feel like if I don't have at least 45 minutes to suggest going to an exile, then I don't. So it's tough, because you do this work and you open this door and you see something powerful and important. And at least when I'm in this role, I'm often then checking out and saying, okay, let's put this on our list and let it know that you won't forget about it.
Yeah. I definitely won't forget about it, about any of them. I'm happy to recap and understand what's come forward. And also, I have time today, depending on your schedule, if we want to continue more.
It's not a great day for me to go much longer. But I'm happy to spend a few more minutes doing whatever feels right, recapping, anything you want. Any other questions or concerns we have from any parts? Anything you'd like for me to do differently, or anything at all?
Yeah, I think it could be useful to recap a little just for myself.
Okay.
So we've got Bob, who has no limbs and feels immobilized and beat up. They have another sort of equal and opposite part that really says you're fine and get over it. Doesn't want to be affected by the trauma, doesn't want to acknowledge the hurt. It's difficult to acknowledge the hurt. This part I'd love your 2 cents on, but then there's some exile energy of not being accepted if we're not okay.
Right. Started with there's sadness in accepting that we're not fine.
Yeah.
And yes, that kind of led to having to be fine and having to conceal the hurt and the helplessness from various times in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds like exile parts with those burdens. They're having to hold the hurt and the helpless. And might still feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen a lot in your system or in others like I feel like so many of my parts morph and almost aren't completely separate from one another, if that makes sense. Like,
absolutely.
One exile will have a lot of energy of another exile, or there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah.
Which makes sense if it's stemming from similar experiences or same experiences and just branching off of those. There's going to be a lot of crossovers.
Sure. I mean, the majority of people think aren't even aware of parts. They're in I'm one. I'm just one mode. So
that's all me, right? Yeah.
So the illusion of that illusion of oneness is pretty powerful. And even to distinguish it all, cutting edge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
I think.
I think it's an important way that parts are, is that blendedness, they're blending together, they're blending with you. That's kind of allows them to do their work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can see it kind of being similar to like getting to know a new community of people, and maybe at first the distinctions between each person in that new community are blurred, and as you spend more time in that community, or as you get to know those people, their kind of distinct persona or energy like becomes more clear to you, right? As you get to know them and as you.
Yeah. Well, and there's also kind of the opposite of effect where you see more and more connections the more you get to know them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
So we're both agreeing to not forget about the 5-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to take some notes after this. So she'll be on the page.
Great. Me too.
Oh, I wanted to ask how your schedule is going forward, how much regular availability in the next few months, what that looks like for you.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows? That might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.